I'm going to tell you the myth of the judgment of Paris, from that great web of Greek myths that come in the lead up to the Trojan War. So travel with me in your mind's eye to the sparkling waters of the Aegean Sea. On the east coast, in what is now Turkey, there soars Mount Ida, a tall mountain with sparkling, spitting streams and waterfalls. Over on the west coast, down into the mainlands of Greece, Mount Pelion stretches its forested arm out into the water. And between the two, soaring up beyond the clouds, under the great vault of the shining heavens, stands Mount Olympus, the home of the gods. High on the walls of Mount Olympus, Zeus stood looking down, 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 down at the shining waters, at Thetis, a sea goddess whose wet curves and rippling form were all that Zeus could think about. King of the gods, cloud gatherer, father of all, and seducer of many. Zeus had set his sights on Thetis, but he knew he couldn't have her. There was a prophecy about Thetis that if she ever bore a child, that child would be mightier than his father, and Zeus was not about to risk that. So he made a plan. He would marry Thetis off so he wasn't tempted. He married her to Peleus, a mortal man. So Zeus made a plan. He would marry Thetis to someone who would be no threat. He chose Peleus, a noble, mortal king. And they were married on the slopes of Mount Pelion. To show Thetis due honour, every god and goddess, from the heavens, the earth, the underworld, and the oceans, were invited to that wedding. Everyone except Eris. Eris, the goddess of strife and discord. Because no one wants discord at a wedding. So as all the gods and goddesses feasted and danced and played music and made merry on the slopes of Mount Pelion, Eris looked on. And she felt her blood burn with the bitterness of that rejection. Eris felt the dishonour that had been done to her like a knife in her gut. And she was hungry for revenge. So Eris made an apple, a golden apple exquisitely wrought, and into it she carved the words, "For the fairest." She cast that apple down into the wedding feast and sat back to watch. Hermes, the messenger god, the god of mischief, with his winged sandals strapped to his feet, was having the best time. The wine was flowing, the nymphs were dancing, and he was twirling in the middle. Through a winy haze of merriment, he caught sight of something glittering in the grass. An apple. A golden apple with words, "For the fairest." For the fairest. Ladies and gentlemen, gods and goddesses, this apple is for the fairest of us. As soon as he spoke, Hermes wished he hadn't. A hush rippled across the crowd, and he found himself looking into 3 pairs of deadly eyes. Hera, the queen of the gods, stepped forwards. Hermes, give the apple to me. But next to her, Athene, the goddess of war and wisdom. That apple is mine. And next to her, Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Hermes, you know you want to give it to me. Hermes' eyes sparkled with mischief. He took the apple and threw it up into the air, and then he dove for cover as those 3 goddesses swarmed forwards, jabbing each other with their elbows, stamping at each other's feet, snatching and squabbling for that apple. It was like a bonfire had erupted in the middle of the clearing as they fought for the apple. And all the guests, watching this ferocity, turned their eyes to Zeus, who did not want to have to get involved. But the fight was going on and it was getting fiercer, and so he stood. Enough! Thunder rolled overhead, and the 3 goddesses stopped and looked expectantly at him. Zeus quailed in the face of his wife, his daughter, and the goddess of love, all staring straight at him. And so he opened his mind to the panorama of the world and saw there, on the slopes of Mount Ida, a young man, beautiful, a Trojan prince, Paris, out with the flocks of sheep. He would do. Hermes, take the apple, escort Hera and Athene and Aphrodite to Mount Ida, and tell Paris that he is to decide who it rightfully belongs to. Hermes put on his sandals, picked up his golden staff, took the apple and flashed up into the sky. Hera, Athene, and Aphrodite flashed after him across the Aegean to Mount Ida. Paris, sitting on the slopes in the late afternoon sun, was bored. The sheep were sheeping, the cows were cowing, and he was trying to decide whether to eat his last bit of cheese now or wait until the sun had set just that bit lower. And suddenly there, in the air above the mountain, a kind of heat haze was shimmering. He blinked, and suddenly there beside him a young man with winged sandals, a golden staff, and something in his hand, Paris. Paris, it's lovely to see you. I've got a quick favour to ask of you, Paris. Nothing big. Please, take this. And into Paris's hands was thrust a golden apple with the words, for the fairest. It's a simple enough thing, Paris. I just need you to give this apple to whichever of these 3 goddesses you think it best belongs to. Hera, Athene, and Aphrodite. And Paris gazed up as 3 colossal beings shrank and shrank and shrank and shrank in the sky and stepped out. The most beautiful women he'd ever seen. Mouth-wateringly beautiful. And Paris's mouth went dry. The goddesses could see that Paris might need a little help deciding. Hera as beautiful as a sunset over the ocean. Paris, if you give the apple to me, I will make you king over all of Asia. All the lands and people will be yours. But then Athene stepped forwards. Athene, whose beauty was like sunlight on snow or the deep embers of a fire. Paris, give the apple to me, and I will make you victorious in every battle you ever fight. And men will come from every corner of the world to hear your wisdom. Paris's mind span with these offers. And then Aphrodite stepped forwards. Aphrodite, whose beauty was like a wild rose garden. Paris, give the apple to me, and I will give you Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world, to be yours. And Paris, his mind had been spinning with Hera and Athene's words, and now his heart melted and his blood tingled at the thought of Helen. He could already taste her, smell her, feel her. Without a word, he gave the apple to Aphrodite, who laughed and slipped it into her robe and flashed up into the sky. She left a scent of roses on the air. And Paris, he was too full of the vision of Helen to notice that Hera and Athene disappeared, leaving the scent of burning on the air.